The door shut behind me and warm air brushed my cheeks. Voices mixed in the room. Plates and cutlery made light clinking noises. I stood still for a moment. I was in an unfamiliar city. I was in a different country. I was inside a restaurant, and I was on my own. My name is Miriam. I am 27 years old. This was my first journey to Europe. I had come from America. I wanted to explore new places. I wanted to taste new food. But now, while I stood by the entrance, I felt unsure. No one looked at me. No one asked, "Just one?" That was what I expected. Back home, someone always leads you to a table. Here, it seemed different. People walked in freely. They glanced around and chose a seat. I didn't know what to do. A couple entered after me. They did not wait either. They headed toward a spot by the window. They sat and smiled. I watched them and thought, perhaps I have to do that also. I stepped forward. My palms were warm. My heart beat quickly. I spotted an empty seat in a corner. I pulled the chair and sat. The table was simple. A candle, cutlery, and a tiny flower sat on it. There was no menu. I looked around. Some diners held menus, others didn't. I waited. I hoped someone would hand me one. Minutes passed. A waiter walked near me. He wore a white shirt and dark trousers. A notebook was in his hand. He looked busy. He went past me without stopping. My mouth felt dry. Should I speak first? Should I stay quiet? I didn't say a word. At last, the waiter returned and smiled. "Good evening," he said. "Did you already decide what you want?" His voice was gentle. His English was simple but clear. I wanted to answer, but I had no menu. Words came slowly. "Could I have a menu, please?" He nodded, walked to another table, and picked one up. He placed it before me. "Here you go," he said. "Thank you," I whispered. I opened it. Most words were in German. I barely understood them, but beneath each dish, small English lines were printed. I read carefully. I wanted something traditional. I found it as number 5. It read, "Breaded meat cutlet with salad." My stomach growled. My mind felt sure. The waiter returned with his notebook. He smiled lightly and waited. I breathed in slowly. "I'll take number 5, the cutlet with salad." My voice trembled, but the words were clear enough. He wrote quickly, "And to drink?" I paused. "Just mineral water." He looked up. "With or without bubbles?" I blinked. I had not expected a choice. In my country, water was simply water. Here, it had options. "Still water with a little fizz," I said. He repeated, "So cutlet with salad and mineral water with a little gas, yes?" "Yes," I answered. "Thank you," he said and walked off. I leaned back in my seat. I could feel my breath slow. I had done it. I had ordered. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. I observed the room. People spoke German. I couldn't understand most of it, but the sound was pleasant. Some voices were low, some loud. The room felt alive. The smell of warm bread, cooked meat, and herbs filled the air. I felt hungry and proud. The waiter returned with my drink. Tiny bubbles rose in the glass. He set it down gently. "Here," he said. "Thank you," I replied. I lifted the glass and tasted it. It felt new, fresh and sharp at once. I smiled. A little while later, the waiter brought my meal. He set the plate before me. The cutlet was golden brown and crispy. The salad was bright and colorful. A thin slice of lemon rested on the side. "Enjoy," he said. "Thank you," I answered. I cut into the cutlet. It was warm and crunchy. I chewed slowly. It tasted rich and comforting. The salad was fresh and light. Together, they were perfect. A family near the door laughed loudly. A man in a suit whispered quickly into his phone. 2 women shared dessert by the window. The restaurant felt full, busy, and warm. I felt like I belonged here now. When I finished eating, I sighed softly. I had entered alone, chosen a seat, asked for a menu, ordered, and eaten, all in a foreign place. The waiter arrived. "Was it good?" he asked. "Yes, very good," I replied. "Something else?" he asked. "No, thank you. The bill, please." He nodded and soon returned with a small paper. I placed money on the table. Back home, tips were often included. Here, they were not. It was a choice. I added a little extra out of gratitude. He picked up the money and nodded slightly. "Thank you," he said. I stood up. My legs felt steady. I had feared this moment, but everything was fine. More than fine. It was a small victory. The cold air greeted me again as I stepped outside. The street was calm. A tram glided by with glowing lights. People walked wrapped in scarves. I smiled. My stomach was full, and I had a story to hold. Later that night, I lay in my hotel bed thinking. It had only been dinner, yet it felt bigger. I learned I could push myself. I could speak even when nervous. And my journey had only begun. Before I continue, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you're listening from. Your support means so much. Let's continue. Next morning, I woke early. I opened the window of my room. The air was cold, but the sky was clear. Cars and people moved below. Some carried bags, others coffee. I smiled softly. I had ordered my own dinner the night before. Now I wanted more. I left my hotel and walked toward the city center. Old buildings stood tall, with wide entrances and large windows. Trams rolled smoothly along the tracks. I stopped outside a cafe. Through the glass, people sat drinking coffee and eating pastries. My stomach reminded me I was hungry. I opened the door. The smell of coffee surrounded me. Small tables filled the room. Some customers read newspapers, some chatted. No one came to guide me. I remembered the previous night I had to pick a seat myself. I walked to a tiny table against the wall and sat down. Soon, a young woman in a white shirt and black trousers approached. She held a notebook. She smiled. "Good morning. What would you like?" she asked. A menu was already on the table this time. The words were German, but easy to guess. "Café," I said softly, trying the language. Her smile widened. "One coffee. Anything else?" she asked in English. "Yes, a croissant, please." Of course, she said, writing it down. I breathed slowly. This time felt easier. I had used a German word and she understood. I felt proud. She soon returned with my order. The coffee smelled strong, the croissant was soft and warm. I ate slowly, watching the cafe. People laughed, read, talked. I no longer felt lonely. When I finished, I asked, "Can I pay, please?" She brought the bill. I paid and left a small tip. "Danke," she said gently. I walked out with lighter steps. I am learning to trust myself, to speak, to live somewhere new. Night fell quietly. My eyes grew heavy. Tomorrow, I wanted to do even more. Sunday arrived. The streets were calm. Shops were closed, but cafes were open. The sky was gray. The air was cold. I walked with my hands in my coat pockets. I had eaten at cafes, small restaurants, and bakeries. I had spoken to servers and cashiers. My confidence grew a little each time, but one thing was missing. I hadn't tried an upscale restaurant yet. That evening, I chose to go. I wanted to challenge myself. Could I order in a fancy place? Could I sit among people who looked wealthy and stay confident? My mind said yes, but my body was unsure. I searched online and found a famous restaurant near the Opera House. Reviews said it served classic Austrian dishes. It was pricier than the cafes, but I wanted the experience. I wore my best clothes, fixed my hair, and walked there. As the city lights turned on, I reached the heavy entrance. I pushed the door. Warm light spread across the room. The space was bright and elegant. White tablecloths covered every table. Candles flickered gently. People spoke softly in small groups. The room smelled of wine and slow-cooked dishes. My steps got slower. This place felt different from anywhere I'd eaten. For a moment, I felt just like on the first night. My hand trembled slightly, but then I reminded myself, I had done this before. I could do it again. A man in a black suit approached. He looked like the host. "Good evening," he said. "Do you have a reservation?" "No," I said quietly. He smiled gently. "That's fine, for one person." "Yes," I replied. "Follow me, please," he said. He led me to a small table by the wall. He pulled out the chair. I sat, and he placed a menu in front of me. "Your server will be with you soon," he said. "Thank you," I answered. I opened the menu. The pages were large, German names with English descriptions below. The prices were high and the titles long. I read slowly. I chose roast duck with red cabbage and potatoes. It felt bold. The waiter soon arrived. He wore a white shirt with a black tie. He held a notebook and stood straight. "Good evening," he said. "What would you like?" With calm eyes, I replied, "Roast duck with red cabbage and potatoes, please." "Very well," he said. "And to drink?" "Still mineral water," I said. He wrote and nodded. "Thank you." I leaned back and looked around. Men in suits chatted quietly. A woman in a red dress talked to her friend. Two older guests shared a bottle of wine. They seemed so comfortable. They were used to this. It was normal for them. It was new for me, and yet I was here. The waiter returned and poured my water into a tall glass. "Enjoy," he said. "Thank you," I replied. The water tasted cool and clean. My heartbeat had slowed. I was a part of this place too, even alone. Soon he brought the dish. He set the plate before me carefully. The duck glowed golden. The cabbage was bright red and soft. The potatoes looked buttery. The smell was rich. "Enjoy your meal," he said. "Thank you," I replied. I tasted the duck. It was deep in flavor. The cabbage was sweet, the potatoes creamy. Every bite felt new and confident. I ate slowly. Halfway through, something surprising happened. The woman in the red dress turned and smiled at me. She asked softly, "Are you traveling alone?" "Yes," I said with a small smile. "Where are you from?" she asked. "I'm from the United States," I replied. She nodded. "Do you like Vienna?" "Yes," I said. "It's very beautiful." She leaned a bit closer. "Would you like to join us for dessert? We're having apple strudel. It's very famous." For a moment, I froze. Eating with strangers? Speaking more English? I felt shy. But then I remembered. I came here to be brave. "Yes, thank you," I said. She smiled and called the waiter. Another chair was brought. I moved and sat with her and her friend. "My name is Elena," she said. "This is Marcus." "Nice to meet you," I said. "I'm Miriam." We talked while waiting for dessert. I told them about cafes and bakeries and how I had learned about water with gas. They laughed softly. Soon the apple strudel arrived. Warm, sweet, soft. We shared it. I took a bite. It was comforting and new. "So delicious," I said. "Yes," Elena said. "It's our favorite dessert." We kept talking. They told me about their city, their favorite places. I listened. I spoke without fear. My voice felt steady. When the bill came, Marcus paid. I tried to share, but he said, "You're our guest tonight." "Thank you," I said. We stood to leave. Elena lightly touched my arm. "You speak very well," she said. "Don't be afraid. You will always find help." Her words stayed with me as I walked back under glowing city lights. My steps were light. My mind was calm. Back in my room, I wrote in my notebook. Tonight, I ate at a fine restaurant. I ordered. I sat with strangers. I spoke. I wasn't scared.
I felt strong. I closed the notebook and looked out at the lights. I remember my first night. I had been so nervous, unsure of where to sit or what to say. Now I had ordered confidently. I had shared desserts with strangers. I had learned something bigger than food. Restaurants taught me bravery. They showed me I could stand, speak, and belong in the world. I